This is a summit where the stakeholders come together to deliberate on the good of Nigeria. Our deliberation today is on Nigerian Police and policing, an X-ray of the image and performance of the men and women in uniform to whom we have entrusted the security of our lives and property. I'm Shala Jay. Let's start with a brief history of Nigerian Police.
Long before the 1901 colonization of Nigeria by Great Britain, Nigeria's first police unit had been established in 1820 with officers from the eastern part of Nigeria. The establishment of the Lagos Police followed in 1896. Then a similar force, which was called the Niger Coast Constabulary, was also formed in Calabar in 1894 under the newly formed Niger Coastal Protectorate. In the northern region, the Royal Niger Company set up the Royal Niger Company Constabulary in 1888. When the protectorates of both northern and southern Nigeria were proclaimed in the early 1900s, part of the Royal Niger Company Constabulary was also transformed to the Northern Nigeria Police, and part of the Niger Coastal Constabulary transformed to the Southern Nigeria Police. In 1930, the British colonial government of Nigeria merged the Southern Nigeria Police and the Northern Nigeria Police into the Federal Law Enforcement Agency, which adopted the name Nigeria Police. Presently, the department is headquartered in Louis Edet House in the Central District of Abuja, the capital of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigeria currently operates a federal government system similar to America, but she has failed to implement America's policing system that allows for federal and state police. Instead, she operates only one police agency controlled by the federal government under the governing jurisdiction of the Nigeria's Ministry of Interior. The chief executive of the Nigeria Police Force is titled Inspector General of Police, or IGP for short. 19 IGPs have occupied that seat since its inception in 1964, starting with Louis Edet from 1964 to 1966, to the current and 19th IGP, Ibrahim Idris, who was appointed in 2016 by the current president, Muhammadu Buhari. The structure provides for 7 divisions, which are headed by Deputy Inspectors General of Police, DIGPs. They are Operations Division, Admin and Finance, Welfare, Training, Works and Housing, Investigation, and the Communications Divisions. Each of the 36 states of the Federation has a police command headed by a Commissioner of Police, and the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, also has a police command with its own commissioner, making it 37 police commissioners in the Federation. From few thousand membership at inception, the Nigeria Police has risen to the current 371,800 officers, and plans are in the works to increase to 650,000 officers. Police departments all over the world are regularly accused of corruption and brutality of citizens, and Nigeria Police is not an exception. From the late legend of Afrobeat music, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, to the more contemporary Two-Face Idibia, musicians have lent their voices through songs in the condemnation of Nigerian police corruption and brutality of citizens. The citizens' complaints about police abuse range from extortion to physical abuse and extrajudicial killings. The latest concerted public campaign against the police was executed in late 2017. It was targeted specifically against the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigeria Police, which is popularly known as SARS. The campaign alleged that the members of SARS, which was established to protect the public from armed robbers, have themselves become armed robbers of the people with state-sponsored arms. The campaign was tagged End SARS, and it was a demand by a section of the society to scrap the SARS unit.
Personally, I've been harassed thrice by the SARS men. I'm a businessman that runs a company here in Lagos, in Nigeria. I'm an employer of labor. Yet they will harass us, they extort us.
The social media has been awash with public allegations of various criminal misconducts by the officers of the SARS. Let's listen to a random sampling on Nigerian streets, what Nigerians say about the conduct of the police officers.
Most of the kidnapping and armed robbery that is taking place in this state is by men of SARS.
We are telling them that they should stop this harassment against Nigerian youth.
Well, like we promised you, due to popular demand, we've brought back the three gentlemen, Captain Bish, who's a U.S. Army retired captain. He's a national defense and military strategist. Also, Majid Dahiru, who's a newspaper and public affairs analyst. And we also have our commissioner, Lawrence Alobi, who's a former commissioner of FCT. Gentlemen, we're in part 2 of this particular program because there was no way we could have exhausted half of what we even wanted to talk about. When we had the break in the first edition, most of you said something which most Nigerians talk about. Do we really have a country? Or do we have a democracy which is completely broken, or a country which is completely broken? Why don't we take it from there? Because we cannot be talking of reformation if every other thing is not together. Who do we start with? Why don't we start with you this time, Captain?
My brother, I've been an ardent campaigner for restructuring of this country because I believe that our country is not working. You know, sometimes we compare ourselves with some other African countries. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves with some other African countries. This country is enormously blessed with both human and material resources. That we may not need to be as rich as the United States or Germany or China, but we shouldn't be at the point where we are comparing ourselves with other small African countries. So the system we have in place is not working, has not worked, and is not going to work. Because, and this is, some people said is a matter of leadership, but I think it's a structural problem. Because I found it very difficult to believe that out of over 180 million people, we cannot find a leader who will lead us to that promised land. I believe that is a system that was created to the point that no matter who becomes the president of this country, he is incapacitated. He's incapacitated because he has to manage over 600 federal agencies that engulfs over 3 trillion naira on overhead costs. How do you begin as an individual to supervise 600 federal agencies? There are some directors general in some parastatals in this country that the president is not aware of, and they're collecting budgetary allocation every year. And these monies are being misappropriated and even outrightly embezzled without anybody knowing.
No, but a lot of the things that are coming out now that have been going on in the system, many of them are mind-boggling, very mind-boggling. Ghost workers, all manners of agencies that are in existence that no one seems to know about.
And that is what happens when the government is too big. Our government is too big. Our government is involved in managing primary schools, secondary schools, health centers. Yeah. You understand? So the government is distracted. The central government in particular is distracted from its basic function. The function of our central government should be limited to national security, okay? Protection of lives and property, supervisory and oversight functions. It shouldn't be delving into some other areas that our central government is delved into right now. You know, in our last session, we talked about the police. The police cannot do magic. They cannot. What we are asking them to do is an impossible task. Asking 400 officers to police 180 million people, tell me where on earth that kind of thing happens. It does not happen anywhere. We talked about state police. If state police cannot work, what we have now is not working. So we must find something that works. And something that works means we must expand the police. At least 1.8 million police officers. Since we're talking about 180 million people. That is where we need to start. But the question now is, how do you fund 1.8 million police officers? Where will the money come from?
You've just raised another point, because Majid said earlier that we need to go back to the drawing board. When you say go back to the drawing board, one of the first things that Nigeria also needs to do is population control. You see, you cannot continue to expand. I think we've been given a projection of almost, they're saying 250 million people in another 10 years. That means all manners of population is springing up everywhere, including people from Niger and Chad and Cameroon who are basically influx in the country. See, so you cannot manage something that you don't know what the size is. And when you're talking about policing, you're policing people and properties.
Sure. And it's based on statistics.
It's based on statistics. Take it from there.
Okay. Let me try and, as compact as possible, summarize a lot of the issues you've raised and put it in a proper perspective. Number one, you see corruption that you see that is ravaging Nigeria,
Right.
is symptomatic of the fact that we don't have a nation. What we have today is a collection of micronations with individuals whose loyalties are to their ethnicity or to their religious faith rather than to the nation. So you don't have citizenship. Citizenship have in blood. What you have is ethnic identity has taken over. Now what you have today is, the reason why you have the level of corruption you just talked about in the federal structure, it's not because it is centralized. It is because each of these individuals who are part of the society now see government as a means to grab, to satisfy
Their own
sectional interests.
Yes.
Now there's no real effort to come together as a progressive nation does. Come together, harness our energy to exploit the world.
Right.
And get enough resources, enough revenue from outside our border. There is no incentive to do that. Now, we have locked horns over struggle for our meager crude oil revenues.
Right.
2.3 million barrels per day oil money. We've locked horns, struggling for that resource. And that is why corruption has ballooned and become official and has even been given affirmative action by zoning and rotation of public offices. The president comes from the north-south, produces the vice president, Senate president goes to the north-central, etc., etc.
It's a sharing
It's
formula.
an affirmation of corruption in a way. Now, how do we get out of this? Again, it cannot be legislated. A realization must begin to occur amongst all of us. First, that our ethnicity is artificial. That we're not as diverse or as different as we think. That we are one people. And a common economy, our citizenship should be our core, our focus as a people. Because at the end of the day, this current system is not sustainable. Because the resources is stagnant or even reducing in some cases, while population is ballooning. That is why even those who are the biggest champions of ethnic identity are now beginning to complain that it doesn't seem to be working or satisfying that interest anymore. Because it's not sustainable. We have a crisis of revenue. That's why we cannot fund our police force enough. We cannot fund our education enough. And when we talk about restructuring, again, I like to differ a little. In the First Republic, we had a decentralized federation. But there was a problem. The regions, the 3 regions and then later 4 regions, were rigidly built around ethnicity. So much such that there was a conflict between regionalism and citizenship. That is, I'm a Nigerian citizen who was originally from the north. Now, because I've decided to move my trade, my economy is best satisfied in the eastern region, I am hampered by my non-indigenous status. I'm restricted. I cannot serve with the regional, I cannot serve in the regional structures. I'm not integrated properly. So the first regional federation was not organic enough to allow for continuous integration and assimilation of Nigerians wherever they may choose to reside. That is still the problem with us today. So all the structures we practice have all failed because of this singular factor. A nation state, a modern nation state, like the United States, the UK, Japan. The reason for the existence of a state must be more economic than political. But Nigeria is more political than economic.
Well, you can also understand why now you have more tribes and ethnic groups wanting their own states. You know, in Nigeria.
Even when it comes to ethnicity,
Yeah.
it is so bad now that it has even broken to micro ethnicity.
That is clearly.
So a time will come that all of us would ask for states for individual family compounds at this rate.
That's a good one. Yeah. Commissioner, you were going to let's have your input on this.
I was saying that, like you said, in this country we're not able to evolve national values. How do, if I see myself as a Nigerian, like Bill Clinton, when he was addressing the UN General Assembly in 1995, he said, we are all vulnerable. We can be less vulnerable when we unite and work together based on spirit of unity and understanding. Today in Nigeria, we are so divided. This unity is our greatest challenge. Ethnicity, either on religious basis or ethnic basis. And whatever you do, like we the minority, we're endangered species. And if you don't have godfathers, you may not be able to progress anywhere. So, like you said, we need to actually that structuring, where issue of Nigerianism, Nigerian consciousness. Whatever you are Nigerian, and you have the benefit of being a Nigerian wherever you live. Not saying whether you are from a particular state or not a particular state, you have the equal right with every other person. And we should all compete effectively. You see why the religions were doing well? Because there was such a competition. But now it is he who controls power gets everything. Why is it that in Nigeria today, whenever you are given an appointment, oh, this is our time, they even make it to get corrupted. So find that until we develop that attitude of transparency, accountability, service-oriented leadership that is meant to serve the people, moral leadership, not leadership that is meant to impoverish the people. And until when we begin to develop an attitude where we say, I want to service, it's culture of service. Today, if you go to, for instance, if you go to any ministry or any department, like you talk about the police, you don't give, if you want your file to be treated, if you don't tip the person, the file will get missing.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing. You see, so this attitude of service is not there. Right. You know, what can I contribute? Life is a life of service. We're in this room now, we're enjoying free oxygen. We're not being paid for anything for the oxygen we enjoy. We're breathing free sunshine, free life, free world. But man will cater to contribute towards development. But we're trying to monetize everything, commercialize everything. So I think our value system need to be changed. The orientation, our leadership, our leaders need to have leadership that leaders are all out to serve the people, not to serve their ethnic interests or religious interests or political interests. Service is the purpose of life.
Commissioner.
But until when we develop that attitude,
Commissioner.
Yes.
Most people listening to you now
Yes.
will say you're literally preaching to the Pope. Because most Nigerians have heard,
Yes.
and believe me, they've heard this statement that you've made in ad nauseam.
Yes.
But nothing is changing. In terms of restructuring the country, if that is going to be the solution, how do we go about that? Because it's literally sipping into almost everything we do. We're talking, this program is about Nigerian policing.
Yes.
But you can see how it's evolved into...
It permeates.
It's completely eaten into what Nigeria is really not about. You see? So
let me conclude.
Wait, sorry.
Okay.
You're not concluding anything.
Okay,
You're just starting.
Okay.
Just started. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's about the Nigerian police and the policing of its citizens. We'll come back and we'll carry on with the discussion with Majid, with Captain Johnson, and also Commissioner Alobi. We'll be right back.
When you're looking at this women, what you'll be wondering is perhaps, a protest against marginalization and victimization against Nigerian women.
The plight of a disabled person is glaring. The people say they just do not need only sympathy from the government, but a structured welfare plan.
Statistics have shown that over 250,000 children are malnourished.
The worrisome about baby factory and baby cells is that these evils are being perpetrated by women like me.
Nigerian women are the ones who build this economy from the bottom to the top.
Africa is in need of evacuation centers. In Nigeria, we have none. We have schools for makeshift refugee camps. That's got to stop.
Gender Agenda, every Saturday at 1 p.m. with Adora Onyechere.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, our discussion has evolved, like I said at the beginning of the second edition of the Nigerian Police and Policing, has evolved from just not the police, but the society as a whole. And before we left, the commissioner was making a point, and which was?
The point I'm making is that the Nigerian police as it is today is not what we left 11 years ago, because the standard has gone down and there's so many factors are responsible. One, police is not being funded, police is not being trained, police, they have unnecessary political control, and they don't build capacity, because an untrained policeman is a threat to the society, a threat to the institution.
Exactly.
So if you really want to get the police, the best on the police, the government of this country must be ready. You see, we keep on blaming the police and ineffective. We are the cause of this ineffectiveness. If you want to fix Nigeria today, insofar as Nigerian police remains underfunded, remains untrained, under-equipped, under-motivated, they will continue to have internal security challenges. And insofar as Nigerian police is not being reformed to the best to perform optimally, Nigeria will continue to have this challenge we're having today. So if you want Nigeria to be secure and to be safe and secure, you have to ensure that the Nigerian police force is actually reformed. And that reformation is reforming Nigerian police based on need. Not a lot of reports have been written, a lot of panels have been set up. I know NDU of blessed memory, Mandandama report, and all these reports have been forwarded. Even I took part in the committees on police safety, national security and safety of the country policy. All those reports are there, but they're not being implemented. You see, our leaders are not sincere. Okay. If the leadership of this country is actually sincere to reform the Nigerian police force, and I want to appeal to Mr. President, let him assert himself, under my watchful watch, I will make this Nigerian police force the police this country needs. And if the police is actually funded and trained and equipped, we don't need the military to do policing and law enforcement. And by bringing the military to do law enforcement and policing, we try to create, it has a lot of consequences. One, citizens will believe that the police cannot perform, and the police now is militarizing law enforcement and policing. It makes even the citizens themselves mean to have that attitude of violence. But the military believe with immediate action. The police are trained to investigate, arrest, investigate, and prosecute. The military is trained to shoot and kill. And that is not law enforcement at all. Okay. So we need to actually equip our police, train them, motivate them, let them be properly paid with good remuneration so they can, in line with their international standard, as a nation of this country, our police perform excellently well. So if you want them to excel, why now do they not excel here in this country? It's like I said, the Nigerian police force is a victim of a defective system.
Okay, which no one is going to argue. But you see, that does not only exist with the police. I think before we went on break, Captain, you brought up the issue about, if you look at almost every facet of the society.
Correct.
Whenever you appoint a particular person from a tribe, and I think, Majid, you also alluded to that, that person tends to surround himself with all his kingsmen, the kind of thing that even the president himself has been accused of.
Correct.
You see, so where do we begin to deal with this problem of having ethnicity as a base for our, for our existence and performance? Because until you go beyond that. I can give you a good example. I had once in my own organization a chief of staff whom we asked to, she was responsible for recruiting other employees. And that chief of staff brought mainly people from
his own area,
from her own tribe. Until I said, okay, we have 9 positions to fill. And 8 of them came from her state. I said, no, this ain't gonna work. We have to, as a UNFCT, we have to ensure that, go and find me somebody from this tribe, from this tribe, from this tribe. And we had to cancel the whole recruitment. I had to redo the whole thing. How do we begin to imbibe those kind of spirit? Because these are palliative measures to begin to get the society moving. Because I'm very ethnically blind. I don't, as long as you're good in what you do,
sure,
you're my best friend.
You know why you're detribalized?
I'm detribalized. Thank God for that.
Equally, I am very, very detribalized. And do you know why? Because I've listened to your accent. I quite agree that you've had some kind of orientation from elsewhere.
I don't believe so. I'm detribalized. I schooled everything in Nigeria.
But you detribalized too. No, it's just okay.
It depends on orientation.
It's just an instance.
Right. It's just an instance. I think he's making. But go ahead.
Can I come in?
Yeah, please.
You see, the president of Nigeria is an absolute monarch. I'm telling you that because the president of Nigeria has more power than all the 36 governors and all the 774 local government chairmen combined. So he now constituted himself into an absolute monarch. So he can make any appointments that he wants to make, which is why we are saying that we need to reduce the power at the center so that all this fighting, because you're going to see very soon, elections are coming up. Very soon, you're going to see the kind of fight that is going to evolve over who becomes the president. The reason why this fight comes up is because every ethnic group wants their own person to be there. Every religion wants someone from their religion to be there because of the inherent benefit which comes as a result of the power of the president. Our federal government controls over 70% of every public asset in this country, which is much more than all the states and the local government combined. Now, if you look at our vertical revenue sharing formula, the central government collects about 52 point something percent.
Right.
The states now have to share amongst themselves about 32 point something percent. The local government now have to share, this is 774 local government areas, now have to share about 20 something percent. So you can see that only the central government alone collects more money than all the states combined. Are you listening to me? And collects almost the same amount as all the states and the local governments now combined. So you see where the problem is? So for us to fix the system, we have to look at all these imbalances. Reduce the job of the federal government, push it down to the states and the local government.
So the issue of restructuring,
which is that issue of restructuring that we are talking about. Right. So that if you want to be a hero, go to your place and be that hero. Wherever you want to become, go to your people and become that thing. Yes. And you will now see competition, because there are some states that are being weighed down because of the bureaucracy we have in place right now. A state like Lagos would want to go to the moon, but they can't go to the moon because they are being kept down by the system that we have in place right now. You will see competition as soon as these bureaucracies and all these bottlenecks that we have in our system, if they are eliminated.
Majid, let me say something.
I know you're dying to
Let me say something quickly.
Yes.
Our federation as it is today, for me, we have not exhausted the limits of positives or positivity. We have not yet. And if you tamper with this, and go to the next structure, you are simply transferring the same problem to that structure.
I think you made that earlier.
Let me tell you currently, no state government is being hampered from developing. You know why? There's so much focus on crude oil revenue that the federal government appears to be controlling. There are other sectors of the economy that the states can develop, specialize in, and become very competitive globally. They're not looking at that because of the lazy leadership. It's also hinged on sectionalism and corruption. The problems you see at the center, I can tell you it is easier to be chancellor. Sorry, it is easier to be president of this country than to be chancellor in some states. It is easier for an Idoma man to be president of Nigeria or Senate president than to be governor of Benue State.
You have a good point there. You have a good point.
It was easy for Obasanjo, for example, to be president of Nigeria than to be a chancellor in Ogun State in 1999. We must balance this discussion.
You have a good point.
Now, on the issue, we're talking about how to make our nation work. And I've said something. We must first realize that we are all losers. Even those that think they are benefiting are actually losers in the long run. Because our resources, the available resources we have, is thinning out. And because there's so much focus on sharing, sectionalism, there's no effort to actually bake and add to the size of the cake.
Equitably.
And how do you do this? How do you do this? Our democracy has deepened our problems. And some people are beginning to say, is democracy really working for us? And I say it can work. We need to restructure the rules of democracy in Nigeria. And how do we do that? We must make conscious effort. Political parties, political leaders, political thinkers must begin to mobilize people to align their democratic choices away from ethnicism and religion to their individual economies.
So the focus will be on
so that
economic.
A shoemaker from Kano and a shoemaker from Aba becomes one tribe because of the economy. So all they're asking for is a common policy that affects their shoemaking industry.
Yeah, but you had, I mean, there was, I mean, a few policies, a few programs that were put in place to try to realign some of these thinking. One of them is your National Youth Service Corps to begin to reorientate the
National Orientation Agency.
National Reorientation Agency, etc. But we are good at creating structures
that
don't work.
Because we've not realized that we are losers. I know what I'm saying. I'm talking about deliberately. Did they have a president who realizes that, look, I need to... Did they have a president from Ogun State that identifies as Yoruba? I choose my words carefully. Identify as Yoruba. But who realizes that, look, to make a point, to move this country from point A to point B, I need to appoint a chief of staff from Ikom. My ADC has to come from the Kanuri tribe. My cook has to be an Igbo man. To make the point that we are one people.
Sure.
Until you have this as a starting point.
I agree with you, 100%.
You say, look, I'm doing this deliberately. You see, you lived in the United States.
Right.
It was deliberate. It was a deliberate effort of the political class in the United States to get a black man elected as president. To prove a point that in America, they are going to a point where you are no more judged by the color of your skin. Obama cannot be president of Kenya because he's from the lower tribe, a minority tribe.
That's correct.
He can't be president of Kenya, but he's the president of the United States of America. America puts its best forward, its energy. Everybody has a space. What matters is your economic relevance. Similarly, bring it to Nigeria. A boy that was born in Aba may actually have his natural calling in cattle breeding. His citizenship should allow him to simply move to a state where the economy is revolved around cattle breeding and make a living and excel.
And that boils down to restructuring.
It boils down because if you look at it, he brought up a subject earlier, is that based on your exposure, there's value in education, there's value in making people understand the fact that I belong to a country, not my tribe.
Tribal loyalty.
You see? But it all centers on education. And even our educational system, in fact, we're doing a special show on that. That one is a different story.
Topic.
That's entirely. So you see, the same way the police is the same
issues with education. It's the same
with healthcare,
with
transportation.
everything. We just did one on healthcare. And it, anyway, gentlemen, we'll take a quick break and be right back.
This is Moneyline with Nancy, and I am Nancy in Nigeria. You get up-to-the-minute information on business, finance, and economy.
Does this administration sleep?
Well, we don't sleep to the extent that we're trying to solve the problems.
That's what I'm talking about. So is it not just about that poverty has really eaten deep into the fabric of our system?
We must have a sense of urgency. Like you said, our people need to see responses to the economy.
Welcome to the program.
You're the best and you know it.
Decisions of monetary policy will be reflected in whatever direction that we think is good for Nigeria and for Nigerians.
Because we've got to keep you up to speed with what's happening in the world of business and economy. So if you want to know what it's about, to find out, tell a friend to tell a friend. I am Nancy Nnaji. Welcome to the program.
Welcome back. We're still discussing Nigerian police and policing in general. Of course, without having to buttress the point, you've seen that it has evolved into what Nigeria is all about, and that the problem of policing per se is not just about the police, but about the society in general. Because every facet of the Nigerian society seems to have something that is similar to what is going on with the police, even whether it's executive, whether it's a Senate, whether it's a judicial. So, gentlemen, now that we're back, we are talking about policing. But I think we'll be remiss if we don't talk about the poor state of things. We talked earlier about the lack of proper education. You know, we have, in the few minutes that we have left, there's educational issues when it comes to how you recruit your members. There's some of the police officers that you just think came from some grits of the society, and they are given guns, and they just force their will on people. Please, talk to us about.
You see, every system has a standard. The point is that due to undue political control, our recruitment process has been bastardized. For instance, if now there's going to be no recruitment exercise, you see lists from senators, from ministers, from the villa.
But you understand why?
Yeah, so what I'm just saying, they have been bastardized.
Yeah.
That's why we cannot have the quality of police officer we really the Nigeria need. And then again, you see, so far, they have postulated democratic community policing as a framework for policing in Nigeria. But for me, I would say community policing cannot strive in Nigeria for today. It cannot be effective. Because, one, like you did observe earlier, that negative perception of Nigerian police by the citizens. For me to be able to work with you, collaborate with you, partner with you, whatever I'm doing. But community policing is just partnership of the citizens with the police.
With the police, yes.
I cannot partner with you when I don't trust you. So we must first develop that trust. And that will be, for me, I advocate democratic policing. Democratic policing is policing of the people by the people for the benefit of the people, and policing in line with democratic norms and values. We need to inculcate both the citizens, democratic education for the citizens, the politicians, the political parties, the electorate. We need democratic policing to imbibe democratic culture, transparency, accountability, inclusiveness, participation, and that is based on the needs of the people.
You said democratic policing.
Democratic policing. Policing that is participatory in nature. The citizens themselves policing in line with democratic norms and values, not policing based on ethnic interests, parochial interests, or nepotism, and so forth.
Yeah, but that's clearly what community policing is.
No, community policing is
trying to advocate.
The community policing is basically to promote partnership.
Like you said,
it's not anchored on.
It's not supposed to be. Look, uphold law and order in that community.
Exactly.
And not allow cultural or religious practices to usurp law and order.
Exactly.
is that the participating community police, not be the emir can send for the police and give an instruction. No. Rather, if the emir or the oba or the obi commits an offense that runs contrary to law and order, he should be sanctioned without
sanction. So when you empower the police in that, giving them the police that training, democratic culture and values, policing conforming to democratic norms and values, that is effective policing. But when now the policing is not effective because so many factors have bastardized it. Today, maybe if somebody's arrested, a phone call. This is why do you arrest this? This is this. Like it's been suspected that the maize problem that happened, that maybe there was another from above. These are all people are now becoming very skeptical about what the police can do. So when we now evolve a Nigerian police force that can stand and assert itself as a force that can stand and defend and protect Nigeria.
Okay, but this is also part of the problem that you have with other structures under the police. You got the EFCC.
The EFCC is an independent organization.
Oh, it is independent, but it's still
it's a law.
It's a law enforcement agency,
but not under
that has not been allowed to fully do its work.
Control.
Are we right?
Yeah, correct. The problem the Nigerian police is having is the same problem that EFCC is having. Is the same problem that ICPC is having. As long as the president continues,
it is only the problem that the army is having.
To appoint
that undue political control,
to appoint and fires whoever is in charge of those agencies will never be allowed to function to their full potential.
But isn't that what Donald Trump is trying to do with the FBI?
Okay,
I mean, use that as an example now.
It's what the
American system will check it.
It's a system. The system
will check it.
Let me tell you, the American system is on autopilot. The president has no control of it. The system is what is driving it. You see, Donald Trump tries to interfere with it, but you see that system, because it is strong, is fighting back.
That's correct.
Even as much as he removed the James Comey, he thought that would be the end of his problem.
There are too many James Comeys.
Of course, there are so many of them. And there's a discussion going on right now if he fires Robert Mueller. People are saying that even if he fires Robert Mueller, that investigation will not even stop.
It will continue.
Because the district attorneys will not take over that investigation. So you see that is where a system, that's where we need to be heading. The institutions are working. Look, there was a proposal that I made on how we could reform ICPC and EFCC. And I think the same thing can equally work in the Nigerian police. Now, a situation where you have to retire 24 DIGs, AIGs, to make somebody in charge of police, that is crazy. Because we just wasted a whole bunch of talents and experience because we want to elevate one individual. You see, that system can't work. What we need to do is have a situation where, once appointed into that position, it is very difficult for the president or his own to fire either the IG or the chairman of the ICPC or the chairman of EFCC. For them to be removed, it has to be followed in impeachment process, just like that of the president. If we can give them that level of assurance and independence, they can make certain decisions regardless of what the presidency thinks.
I mean, thank you for that. But since we're rounding up, I wanted to speak to certain audacity with police officers who, despite the fact that they know what you're talking about, they know the limits of the law, but do things to the detriment of the citizens that they swore to uphold the law to protect.
Well, I think I'll go back to what he said at the very beginning.
Yes.
The police force is structured, almost after the colonial police force, where they are actually regime protectors and not protecting the
protection of the state.
Yes.
And this is because, again, those in power that should understand that, look, the reverse should be the case. Because as your governor today does not mean your son will be governor tomorrow. So he could be an American citizen like me who needs protection of the police force. So if you do not ensure that the police force actually protects citizens and you retain the status quo, he may as well fall victim today, even though you are a temporary beneficiary today. He may fall victim tomorrow. This goes back to a deliberate change in character from this loss of national loss to one of progress, one that can make all of us winners. Again, I've said it, you cannot legislate this thing, you cannot command it. A president or a police officer must understand that, look, how well I police my community has direct impact on the economy, on the society, that I would not become a beneficiary of in the long run. If you're an efficient police system that makes Nigeria a secure country, Nigeria becomes a destination for foreign investment and patronage too.
Correct.
Which increases our revenue, which may now translate to an increase in personal revenue for you as a policeman. Because the country is progressing, it is growing, it is making more money. There has to be this connection. But go back to the recruitment process. A policeman is recruited solely because of ethnic affiliation to one big man. His loyalty begins and stops at that level. He doesn't care about you, the citizen. So he now uses his power of brute force to torment you rather than protecting you.
You see, you just made a very excellent example. They're not thinking, or let's say we are not thinking in terms of how secure a country is how buoyant its economy can become.
Yes.
If today Nigeria wants to bid for the Olympics, the first thing they're going to look at is security. It's not a destination for them.
So if we realize this, we will not stuff the Nigerian police force with kinsmen, tribesmen, whose loyalty is just to the tribe. We will now make sure that the best gets to the police force, well remunerated and allowed to obey the Constitution and ensure law and order without favor, without bias.
Intimidation.
That it has a bigger benefit for us than this temporary gain. That realization must begin now.
Very interesting.
And you know,
sorry, go ahead.
You know, I've said it in the beginning. The police is the backbone of internal security.
Absolutely.
And democracy. They are the protectors of democracy. Forget these temporary things that the army and the military are doing right now. In as much as we cannot get our police right, we can get this country right.
True. That's a social fact.
Are you listening to me?
Very correct.
We have to find a way to get our police right. Ensure that they are properly funded, ensure that they are well manned, ensure that they are well equipped, well kitted, so that they can have the confidence to stop a senator who is violating the law and handcuff him, put him in cell, and send him to court without anybody.
Law and order.
I'm telling you, without anybody, without any phone call from anywhere. Until we get that, our police don't have that confidence. The reason why they don't have that confidence is when you're poor. I don't even know. Do you know that the police is because I come from a police family. Commissioner knows. I have two younger ones that are police officers right now. I have literally tens of cousins that are in the police force. Right. I have about 6 cousins that are in the academy as we speak. So I come from a police family. So I know that they join the police to do their best. They don't join, none of them join the police so that they can intimidate the society or be a disservice to the society. But in the course of their service, you see that there are so much challenges that come to them that are beyond their own individual control. When you owe them their salaries, when their salary is equal to nothing, you spend most of your salary on transportation just to go to work and come back. If you're supposed to go on patrol, you cannot find fuel to fuel your vehicles, and where they have insufficient operational vehicles, the police are supposed to be embedded in all the communities.
I was saddened when a couple of close police friends were telling me that they bought their own boots.
They buy their own. They buy their own uniforms.
Police college.
Yes, they buy their own uniforms, their own
pay
shoes.
For the shit,
yes,
is free.
It is sad.
Look, let me tell you again. Look at it. Sectionalism is the root of corruption, and because sectionalism have prevented us from baking a bigger cake, rather we are struggling over the little we have, it has created scarcity of revenue.
What you guys are describing is a fragile state.
Yes,
it's already
it's falling apart.
It's a failing state.
Look at Bedway. A police IG went to Bedway State and left there after a few hours. Even before going, he declared first that it was a computer clash, as if it was, as if law and order allows for computer clash to the extent that 73 people will be killed. As if computer clash has another meaning. And he goes there and he walks out. And the police chief says, I do not know, he didn't obey my instruction. And he has not been sanctioned ever since. You know why? Because, right, in this issue, in the issue of Benue, there's a direct conflict between culture and law and order. And culture is prevailing over law and order because the political leadership allows that to happen. You have a situation in Benue where you're supposed to declare a full-blown operation. Look, I like to say this. The issue of farmer-herders clashes is different from what is happening today. That's an economic issue over land utilization that the state government can sit down and resolve.
Work among themselves.
But why that clash is it is the duty of the commander-in-chief to prevent one life from being lost due to dispute over land use. Yes. And when it happens, the person, whoever is responsible, must be brought to justice. Right. He has no business with whether the Benue State is doing anti-grazing law or no. No, my own is, look, nobody can lose his or her life in the course of protesting this law. You can't take a life, yours cannot be taken.
So again, the herdsman debacle all point again to some type of corruption which has gone awry.
Well,
are we right?
Not necessarily corruption, but there's politics in it. There is economic in it. So it has political and economic dimension. Because the reason why I say this is this. The farmer wants to earn a living. The crop farmer wants to earn a living. The livestock farmer wants to earn a living. Now, he alluded to the fact that resources are depleting. And so the two parties are now competing for the limited resources that is available. Which is not sufficient and which is even going to worsen in the years to come.
Let's consider that your last point. I think we're rounding up. You know, Commissioner, fires your last shot.
My last shot and advice that the federal government should appreciate the effort of the police, and Nigerians should appreciate the effort of the police. A policeman will work 24/7. He's alienated from his family. A policeman has no time of his own. The policeman sacrifices his life. In France, not too long ago, when a police officer was killed, the whole country, the president came out to honor him.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, policemen are being killed every day. Who has ever raised an eyebrow?
Like chicken.
People are being killed every day. We don't appreciate the effort of the police. The government and people of Nigeria should appreciate the police. Motivate the police and let the police empower them, motivate them, equip them, train them so they can serve you better. So, and insofar as Nigerian police is being neglected and starved of funds and ill-equipped, Nigeria will continue to experience insecurity.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I think that goes to the new slogan by the police, make the police your friend. Give us your last shot. Well,
the police are our friends. They are our brothers. And again, I've said it earlier, they are a victim of the system. They are not, they didn't create the situation that they find themselves in. They are simply victims. And the Nigerian state must rise to the position of the country to such an extent where corruption and inefficiency in the police, as well as all other institutions of state, that is so prevalent today, is actually curbed and transformed for better performance.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Honorable Commissioner,
thank you for having me.
Making the police your friend, which is the slogan, we quite welcome that.
Thank you.
Captain, we thank you for bringing an international perspective to the local problem.
Thank you very much.
And Majid, thanks for, bringing the full picture in terms of how the society can benefit from restructuring and making sure that whatever we do, that the police will benefit on the long run.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for this second edition of the Nigerian police and policing. We have no doubt that we'll have opportunities to also bring you other special programs on how different parts of the society can develop. You've been on top of the summit. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Majid.
Thank you, sir.
Ultimately, making our boys in uniform happy with reasonable welfare package and then improving their conduct will help any plan to reform Nigeria Police for effective 21st century policing. There is also a very thorny issue of reforming Nigeria Police to true federal structure that exists in the United States, from where Nigeria copied her federal government system. In this system, the federal government had its own law enforcement agencies, such as the FBI, and then every state has its own autonomous system, and even the counties and cities within the state have their own police systems, such as Houston Police and Dallas Police Department in the state of Texas. This topic is big enough for a whole edition of its own, and that is exactly what we shall do in our next summit on Nigeria Police Matters. Until then, thank you for watching, and bye for now.